This is wide receiver Jeremy Curley of the New York Jets, and you're listening to the Shorts Sports Show.
Welcome everybody to the Short Sports Show. I'm your host Daniel Short. Today is Friday, October 16th, 2015. Welcome everyone, and I have some great news to talk about first, and make sure everything's good. So as you guys know, I do the show on Spreaker.com, and thankfully Spreaker has been amazing, and they have now upgraded some of their things, where there is now an app basically that you can use on the desktop, and it allows you to do a lot of things that normal podcasts have, and that I've always wanted to incorporate into the show. Just really haven't had time, because a lot of it, because of what I've been using, you had to use, external things. Now you really don't. They kind of incorporated a lot of that thing into that one app. So basically the whole thing is, come next show, it should just be all legit. Like it's going to be a really sound, just everything perfectly. I continue to have computer problems. Asus, I will never buy another Asus product from them. I love your monitors. Don't get me wrong. I love the monitors. I hate your desktop. I've now sent my desktop in twice. Well, actually, it's been to the service center twice of the Geek Squad, but I've sent my computer to Best Buy probably about 10 times, and it's just absolute horrible. They won't even. I won't even get into it. Anyways, so I'm having to work with my laptop right now. Not the strongest, but it's pretty solid. Hopefully, I'll be able to get a new computer. Maybe soon with my desktop, if they would do the right thing and let me just use Best Buy credit and buy a new one. I don't know. So hopefully I'll be able to use some of the things that Spreaker has now brought up a lot more and better very soon, very, very soon. We have a jam-packed show today. A lot of great things are happening around the sports world. College football is going to be an exciting day tomorrow. We finally have a ton of games. Last night really started off very well with Auburn and Kentucky. That game was pretty solid. I was going back and forth between that and the NFL game. Those two games were fun to watch, unless you were a Falcons fan or a Kentucky fan. And then UCLA and Stanford finished it off. Great game as well, unless you were a UCLA fan. It was a good game. I picked UCLA to win, and they lost. They let me down. Now I'm already down one game on my picks. That's not what I want. And wow, Zach Greinke to opt out of Los Angeles Dodgers contract after losing last night. He had 3 years, $71 million remaining. And he's looking at a 5-year, $125 million. I know we haven't talked baseball like we normally, that we should. Just football is everything right now, guys. Football is everything. That sucks. But Greinke, I don't care anymore. My Dodgers, they've just let me down. Every postseason, they've just let me down. So anyways, yeah. So Stanford UCLA game, that was a good game. I really didn't expect Stanford to blow them out like they did. That Stanford, I don't know. Maybe Northwestern is just that good, but then they lost. So it's going to be crazy. Anyways, let's go ahead and talk about some college football news first, and then we'll move on to some of our picks, previewing games more in detail, because not a whole lot of college football news, other than the biggest news, of course, is with head coaching jobs being open here pretty soon, the big jobs. You got South Carolina, you have Southern California, North Texas, you're going to have Illinois, you're going to have, I don't know, there's somewhere else I was looking at. There's just a whole lot of Maryland's opened. Mainly we're going to be talking about both USC jobs in California and Carolina. We're going to talk about those here in just a second. But first, UNC, University of North California, really? Carolina suspends cornerbacks MJ Stewart and Mike Hughes for violating team rules. after an arrest record shows that Stewart was arrested early Thursday morning for assault and battery. And then Affray is considered to be in a fight between 2 or more people in a public place that disturbs the peace. This is not the first time that Stewart has gotten into trouble with the team. He was also suspended last year for the season opener due to violation of team rules. Now, Stewart has 3 interceptions and 4 pass deflections this season starting off. And I lost my spot thanks to this computer. Here we go. And he also is 5th on the team with 20 tackles. Hughes, on the other hand, has played all 5 games and has just 3 tackles. At 4-1, the Tar Heels are off to their best start since 2011 when they started 5-1, and they have a good shot of doing the exact same thing when they host Wake Forest tomorrow, tomorrow after following a bye week. Northern Carolina, what are y'all doing over there? Stanford and Kansas State, going to be a great matchup. Sadly, this is one thing I hate about when you schedule for scheduling purposes. So Stanford and Kansas State have scheduled a home-and-home series. Kansas State will visit Stanford in 2016 next season, which is going to be a great matchup. But when Stanford plays at Kansas State, that won't happen until 2021. That's 6 years away. Come on now. Really? The Cardinals and the Wildcats have never met before, shockingly enough. And Kansas State is the second Big 12 school to add a series with Stanford, as the Stanford Cardinals have signed a home-and-home deal with TCU in 2024 and 2027. It's such a long ways away. Anything can happen. Unless your schedule is completely booked from now until 2021 or 2024, then I understand when you're making scheduling in I guess that far in advance. But if you still have open dates between that time, just fill it in there. Just fill it in there when you have time, because you have a feeling where each team's going to be. Kansas State obviously is always going to be that solid or better school. Stanford, same way. I mean, why not just keep it closer? You want it, especially with Bill Snyder. You don't know how long he's going to be there. This could be his last year. We say that for the past, I don't know, 5-6 years we've said that. You never know when his last year is going to be coaching. Hopefully he is able to play or coach next season, just because I would love to see Bill Snyder football team, being coached by him when they play Stanford in 2016. That's going to be an interesting and very awesome matchup. It really is. I just wish it was at Kansas State. That way it's at Bill Snyder's place, and it maybe a night game, because as TCU now knows, it's a very tough game to play over there at night. And I think Stanford, it'd be an awesome matchup with their power running games going against each other. But it's going to be in Palo Alto, so it's not too bad of a spot either. But it's going to be a great matchup. I love that scheduling deal right there. And moving on to, really, like I said, there wasn't a whole lot of college news that was interesting enough to really talk about. But we do have this. Now, of course, when coaching deals come up, especially in college, there's going to be the biggest name that is going to be out there. And no, it's not Nick Saban. It's going to be Chip Kelly. Philadelphia Eagles coach Chip Kelly tried on Thursday to silence the speculation that he could be a candidate for coaching jobs all around the country. And he kind of made fun of North Texas, I don't know. I don't think you should make fun of North Texas. They got a lot of wrong things going on. If you listen to the actual interview, which is basically everywhere, he pokes fun at North Texas, saying that he would. I don't know if he said he would consider or something, but that he was the head man for North Texas. That sounds right. Anyways, he said, quote, "I understand what's going to happen when we're not successful and when we're not winning." End quote. Kelly said he had not heard from USC, which fired head coach Steve Sarkisian this week after first asking him to take a leave of absence to seek treatment for alcohol abuse. Chip Kelly later says, quote, "I hope to someday be like Coach Tomlin and win enough games where I stay around long enough where that speculation ends." Now, for me, and there might be others out there, really, I mean, Tom Coughlin, he's old. And so I really didn't know that he came from college and, to the NFL like a head coaching job. He was at, I think they said Boston College, and then went, and then 2004, obviously with the whole draft deal was there with Eli Manning and winning a Super Bowl 3 years later. I had no idea. But Chip Kelly's name is going to be tossed around for all the big schools, including the biggest one right now in USC in Southern California. No disrespect to South Carolina. I know they're saying, well, we're an SEC team, so we're a big school too. But I don't know. I mean, you look at USC in California and USC in Carolina. I think USC in California is a much bigger deal, and I would definitely rather take that job than the one in Carolina. So here are some candidates for the USC job, and we're going to talk about them, the pros and the cons. First one up, of course, again, Chip Kelly. The con is he's in the NFL. He's at the spot he wants to be. I mean, if you think about it, when he was at Oregon was one of the best universities out there in terms of football-wise, and also think of everything he gets at Oregon, everything he received there. I mean, he obviously had unlimited amount of uniforms and equipment because all being with Nike. I mean, you take away that. You take away all of that. But I don't know. I would love to see him go to USC. I want to say there is a chance that he would leave the NFL, but I don't know. I don't know his contract. I don't know how much he makes at with the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm sure it's a quick lookup to see if you could make almost the same amount of money at USC as he would in the NFL. Probably not, but you never really know. I mean, Kevin Sumlin makes $5 million a year, so I would think an NFL coach would be getting paid pretty high as well. But he could go, if he were to make almost the same amount of money, it would bring him back to the West Coast at a prestigious university in USC, back to the Pac-12 conference where he knows how to recruit, he knows the area, he knows how to win. I mean, there's a lot of good things that could happen for him, and obviously this would be a home run for USC and getting Chip Kelly. And I want this to happen, honestly. I'm not a USC fan, but I think it'd be exciting for college football to have him back. I mean, with the NFL, yes, he's able to incorporate some of his ideas that he had in college. It's just not the same. And it's really hard to gauge whether he is more of a college coach or an NFL coach. Now, it's not to say because he's not been, this year has kind of been a weird year for him. But a lot of criticism that he's got around with the players and the coaches and the NFL, maybe it's time to just think, look, if I can make almost the same amount of money, but I can win and be one of the best college coaches out there, because him immediately, I mean, USC already gets great recruits. Him going to USC, I mean, he would consistently have a top 3 recruiting class every single year. I mean, it's impossible not to, especially if you're Chip Kelly. I mean, they already have a top 10 almost every year. So imagine Chip Kelly going there, bringing his offense that he knows what works in college football, especially with everything how it's going. This would be very exciting to see. But again, I don't want to be one of those people that says it's all being all around in the hype when there's still that thought in your head that it's like, no, this is not going to happen. It's just that weird thought you keep thinking like, oh yeah, there's a chance, but then it's just like, it's really stupid to think that he would leave. It's weird. It's a very counteractive thing. Maybe it's just me. Another name is Brian Kelly. The thing is, I think Brian Kelly isn't a candidate for USC in California, but USC in Carolina. Now check this out. Obviously, USC in California, they always play Notre Dame. They play them every single year. It's a rivalry game. We all know. He obviously, being at Notre Dame, he doesn't want to play them every year. He's not going to want to play them. I mean, it's just how it is. He's talked about how it's hard to be a coach at Notre Dame because of the academic requirements there for the players that they must meet. And it's not like a normal university where you could have like a 2.0, 2.3, I guess. I really don't know. And still play. Notre Dame's a little bit different. They're more strict, and also a few other things that he said that he said, quote, "You couldn't coach at Notre Dame for more than 15 years." Well, you're in your 6th year. So maybe it's like, okay, getting closer. But the reason it's so intriguing for South Carolina is that he can go there. He bring a lot of good hype around it, where it's not going to be like where he goes 8-5 one year and it's still somewhat rebuilding. I think if Brian Kelly went to South Carolina for 2016, the recruiting class would jump once they know. I think you would see a lot of recruits possibly decommit from wherever they were and commit to South Carolina. I don't think there really would be a huge rebuilding year. Maybe it's just a 1 year. And I still think with Brian Kelly there and that team, I think it automatically, no, even though they're really bad this year, I know it's a stretch, but I think with Brian Kelly's system, his attitude towards the game, I think he makes this team, the worst season would be at 8-5. I think that, and at most, you could be even looking at a 10-win season, and that's your rebuilding year. And I think every year kind of just stays where it's at, and maybe it gets a little bit better. South Carolina, you're obviously having to recruit against Alabama and every other team in the SEC except for Vanderbilt and Kentucky. But I think that would be a pretty solid matchup, really for Brian Kelly. And it gets him into the SEC, which, everybody says that's a huge pulling point. Well, there you go. Let's see if it really is. Because Notre Dame being independent, and he says, there's some trouble coaching there. Well, South Carolina, you be free. I mean, look at Steve Spurrier. He was able to freaking play golf. Probably golfed while practice was happening. I don't know. He had a lot of freedom. I think Brian Kelly would as well. And I think that's more of a valuable option for him to go there. You also have Kevin Sumlin. This is back to California, USC. Again, he already makes $5 million a year at A&M. I think USC would match it or close to it. Now, before they hired Steve Sarkisian, Kevin Sumlin's name did come up. His name did come up, but talks didn't, really get serious. It didn't really get moved anywhere, and nothing happened. Now, the facilities and the money they're putting into Texas A&M football obviously is getting bigger and better every single year, and Kevin Sumlin knows that being, in the state of Texas. But if you look at it, he knows what USC offers. USC just offers a lot more than A&M would. And I know you're thinking, well, he's already in the SEC. He's got a team that's undefeated right now. He's got one of the best quarterbacks in the waiting in Kyle Murray. And then you have, Kyle Allen, who's still a starter, and is doing pretty well this year. Things are starting going good. You got great recruiting classes every single year you've been there. It's taking time to develop these players, but great nonetheless. But you got a better shot at winning a national title at USC than you do at A&M. You do. It's a fact. That could weigh an option for him to say, look, I could go to USC, still get the same recruiting class, still play in the Pac-12, which is a great conference too, have the same type of offense, spread it out a little bit more, and you're at USC. Could be good. And I wouldn't mind. I like that hire for California. Another one is Mike Gundy. Reason just for him is because depending on how Oklahoma State does, you can argue with them. They're probably the worst undefeated team right now. I think Toledo would probably beat them. Let's see who else is undefeated. Trying to think of another bad undefeated team. Memphis isn't bad, but Memphis could beat Oklahoma State. Their offense could beat them. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. And, his time's running low at Oklahoma State. So that would be a good offer. I don't think that's the ideal pick for USC, for either one, really. I guess Mike Gundy would also make sense going to South Carolina, but we'll have to see. Dan Mullen is another one of Mississippi State University. Biggest thing for him is, if you look back last year, Mississippi State was number one for a pretty good amount of time. If he can win at Mississippi State, I'm pretty damn sure he can win at USC in Southern California. So Dan Mullen's name could come up as well. I think that'd be a solid option. A little risky. Not going to say it's not, but would be a pretty good option, a good, solid option for USC. But I think they're trying to get them home runs, and that's with Kevin Sumlin and Chip Kelly. Another name is Justin Fuente. If you guys don't know him, you should by now. After being a very successful offensive coordinator at TCU, developing quarterbacks like Andy Dalton, Fuente's name should be up there in the running. Look at what he's done at Memphis. It's been incredible what he's done. Before he arrived at Memphis, the Memphis Tigers, they were lucky. They were lucky to win 10 games in 3 to 5 year time span. Last season alone, they went 10-3, and right now they're 5-0 and post one of the best offenses in the country. This week, they host Ole Miss, which is going to be an interesting matchup to really see where Memphis is at, and this could really push Justin Fuente's name up there in all the coaching ranks for being hired at USC, or either one of them, Maryland, wherever. This really could be, because what he's done at Memphis, it's unbelievable. His offensive style, his approach to the game is one of the best, and it's not talked about enough. His name is not talked about enough, and he's done a great job at Memphis. So he can obviously be up there, and if USC is looking for an offensive guru, Justin Fuente is one of them. Here's some wild cards, and then we're going to talk about the biggest reach that is unlikely to happen. A wild card is Todd Herman at Houston, 24th in the nation right now. Houston 5-0 or 6-0, 5-0 I believe. Done a great job so far over there with Greg Ward Jr., converted wide receiver as a quarterback this year, and posting up huge numbers both on the ground and through the air. He's done a lot for Houston in just his first year, having the H-Town take over as his recruiting campaign and pulling in big guys, 4- and 5-star recruits already in his first year, and trying to reach Houston's name into maybe a Power 5 conference. So he could potentially do a one and done and say, look, I was at Ohio State, won a national championship using 3 different quarterbacks in that same season. This potentially could be a thing for Todd Herman to say, look, I'm a big-time coach. It'd be kind of mean, and I think Houston would absolutely hate him. Yeah, he would be from most loved to completely hated on if he leaves after just 1 year. But you got to think from his point of his perspective, going from Houston and taking the job at USC. There's a lot of pros to it. There's a lot of pros, and Todd Herman's name should be out there. He's a wild card name. And would be a better pick than Mike Gundy, Brian Kelly, Dan Mullen. We'll just have to see. But his name, obviously a wild card. Then you also have Chad Morris, the head coach at SMU. Offensively, pretty solid. And for what he's done, he took Baylor into the first half, made it a real game with the SMU team. Same thing with TCU. Their defense is terrible. The SMU's a pretty bad team, but offensively, pretty good in just his first year. He was an offensive coordinator at Clemson, as we all know, worked with Taj Boyd and Deshaun Watson. His name could come up and say, look, even though you haven't had a whole lot of head coaching experience, then it would just be 1 year under his belt. you have a lot of potential. I mean, if he can put up a whole lot of points for an SMU team and show some, huge amount of potential for an SMU team, again, SMU pretty bad, then you could say, look, Chad Morrisey's been at a big school at Clemson. I mean, his name could come up for the South Carolina job as well. Those two names are wild cards that should be looked at as well. Obviously, the biggest reach next to Chip Kelly, but I still believe Chip Kelly might be a good consideration, is Nick Saban. Now, I know Nick Saban, Gary Patterson, Urban Meyer, their names always come up for head coaching jobs, and 99.9% of the time, they are not leaving. Urban Meyer's not going to leave Ohio State. Gary Patterson isn't going to leave TCU. Nick Saban most likely isn't going to leave Alabama. The only reason it comes up and makes it a reach and an option is because of the fact that, he won 3 national titles in 4 years. Past 2 seasons, they haven't even won a bowl game. He got blown out against Oklahoma and then lost in the playoff game against Ohio State last season. His name comes up, because going to USC, it'd still be the big brand school. And, I was thinking about this, and I was like, we always, kind of make fun of Kentucky. We make fun of South Carolina, some of the southeastern schools, and we're like, we never truly think about, if he can recruit kids to go to Alabama, which Alabama, no disrespect, but isn't like, oh, I want to go live in Alabama. Not like a whole lot of people say that. A lot of people say, I want to go live in Los Angeles. I want to live in Southern California. Lots of people say that. Maybe Nick Saban says, look, especially if they lose a bowl game or, don't lose, they don't win the SEC championship, whatever the case may be. What if he says, I want a new start, but I want a big school, somewhere where it has potential, somewhere that they're going to have a guy like Juju Smith returning, Ronald Jones II returning. Maybe I want a school like that. This will probably be Nick Saban's last chance to leave Alabama to go to a team that returns a lot of playmakers, and you won't really have to rebuild, and you continue to get great recruiting classes. This is Nick Saban's most likely. This is his last chance to go to a big school. You might weigh it. The reason Texas, I mean, obviously USC would put up the money for Nick Saban. They would put it up. They say, if you are really serious about coming, we will sign you to the same, if not more money that you're making at Alabama. But does he leave? Does he leave? And, Alabama, obviously, those fans, SEC fans, tend to always overreact. And they would quickly go from loving this guy and seeing him as a god to quickly hating this guy and seeing him as the devil if he leaves. So I don't know if he risked that. But that is the biggest reach of all of Nick Saban. But it would obviously be interesting. Last bit of news of college football before we go to our picks is there's a great article. I'm posting it in the description. I was actually supposed to do it. I put it in my thing for my for talking, but I didn't put it in the description. I'll do it right after the show. It is about Portland State and their head coach and what he's done so far, and really to show that it's not always about money and to really look at other things. And it's a great story that ESPN put up on their blog, Pac-12 Post. It's a great story on Portland State. I will put it after the show is over with. If you're downloading this on through if you're not listening to this right now live, basically, then it's already in there. You don't have to worry. Just click on that link. You can still listen to it while you read the story or pause it, whatever. It's a great story. Definitely check it out. So let's go through our picks and what to watch for. So obviously last night UCLA and Stanford played, and an exciting game. Final score of Stanford 56 to UCLA 31, I believe. Great game. I had UCLA, so I'm being honest with you guys. You know what I've noticed? Every Thursday night game, that I have picked so far, at least for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I know for sure, I have been wrong with the NFL and college football, I think. Maybe not college football, but the NFL, I have been wrong. Last night I picked the Falcons. We'll talk about that when we get to the NFL here in just a bit. But I've noticed I picked wrong picks. It's very bad. Anyways, let's move on. Boise State at Utah State. Going to go with Boise State here. Eastern Michigan and Toledo. Holy Toledo. They're still in it. They're going to be undefeated after this week. Going with Toledo. One of the most interesting games that probably not a whole lot of people are talking about due to the SEC matchups we have and some other big contests. Iowa at Northwestern. This is going to be a good game. We'll find out if Northwestern, who they are. We'll find out if Iowa. Iowa has my favorite running back, and I can never remember his name. I'm going to look it up right now. I know his last name's like Cantizzi, or it's some Italian name. He is my favorite running back of college football right now. I know there's Leonard Fournette, and I know TCU, as a fan of TCU, there's some of their running backs, but Iowa running back, he is my favorite, and I got to find his name real quick. But I am going to go with Iowa here. I think they got a solid defense, a turnover machine. They have some DBs that really jump routes and play very well. Defensive line is there, big guys up there. Iowa, they just keep running that ball like crazy, and they're good. They're good at doing it. I'm going with Iowa. Come on. I need to know his name. This guy, he's my favorite running back. I'm going to find it. It's got to be right here. It's a preview, so I would think they'd bring up his name, saying he's Jordan Kanziri. Kanziri. I'm going to go with Kanziri. He is my favorite running back. Jordan Kanziri. I think that's his last name. I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong. Anyways, my favorite running back right now, college football. Had to just get it out there. West Virginia at Baylor. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep picking Baylor. I'm going to go with West Virginia. If this was at West Virginia, which I wish it was, I think West Virginia has a real good shot. They let the game slip against Oklahoma State last week. Not having Carl Joseph, it changes this defense completely. This is going to be a lot closer. Baylor's not going to put 60 points. They might get close to 50. I don't think they put more than 55. I'm thinking more of a 49 to 31 victory for Baylor, but I'm going to pick West Virginia. I'm still going to pick West Virginia in hopes they can beat them once more. Again, we need this. TCU needs Baylor to lose a game before they play. Louisville at Florida State. I'm going to go with the upset here. I think Louisville gets it done. I know they haven't looked that well this season, but they've also played a lot of tough teams than most. And I think Florida State, this is probably going to be their toughest matchup. Miami would have been had they had a better coaching, but I think coaching plus talent, I think Louisville can get this done. I'm thinking an 17-15 victory, 17-14, somewhere around there. I think Louisville will get it. Ole Miss and Memphis. Going to go with Memphis here. Justin Fuente, just talking about him a little bit ago. Got to go with Memphis, and I think they really will get the victory, especially being at home. Alabama at Texas A&M. This might lead Nick Saban to think about USC a little bit more. Going with A&M, I think they have it all around. Their defense, having the off week as well to prepare for this game, helps them out a lot. Alabama still trying to get this offense going. I know they got Derrick Henry. It's going to be a huge test for A&M, but they've already played Arkansas. Both teams have. To really see how they control this game. I think Myles Garrett makes an impact very early. This being at home, they all remember just 2 years ago or 2 or 3 years ago when Alabama came to A&M and Johnny Football was there. Really think they could get the victory again. It didn't happen. But this year, I think A&M gets the victory once more. And A&M, of course, throughout this off week, they have a chance to remember and reflect and know that they lost in Tuscaloosa 59-0 last year. They are not going to let that happen again. I don't think it happens. Going with A&M for this victory. Oklahoma at Kansas State. While a lot of people are thinking Oklahoma is on a downward spiral, I don't believe that. I know they lost to Texas. I mean, it's just one of those weird things when Oklahoma's favored by 2 scores and then they lose to Texas. It seems like it always happens. Even though, obviously, Kansas State showed a lot of potential with who they have, and they're a really good team, I think Oklahoma gets this victory. I can't see them losing back-to-back games in the Big 12. Michigan State at Michigan. College game day is going to be there. I believe they should be there over the LSU Florida game. I'm going with Michigan Wolverines. I love that. I'm somewhat jumping on the bandwagon. I'll be straight up forth with you. Obviously, I'm a TCU fan through and through, and that would always be my number one team, whether we go 0-12 or we go 12-0. That is my team. But right now, as a side team, it's like my side chick. I'm going with Michigan. Michigan is just my favorite. They have, not the greatest of offenses, but their defense is just, I'm jealous. I'm jealous of that defense. And I'm going with Michigan. I think they get it done in the big house. TCU at Iowa State. They keep making these road games at night, knowing that we're, every team's trying to take this best shot at us. I'm hoping for, of course, a 70-17 type victory, but sadly our defense probably won't allow that. I think our offense could easily put 70 points on Iowa State. And even though Coach Gary Patterson said that we will not, that he is not trying to look, put games as style points and all the other stuff, honestly, I think that's what we need to do, even if it's in the back of his mind or whatever it is. We need to put over 60 points on Iowa State, because most likely we're going to give up 30 points to them. Just how bad our defense is because of lack of starters and overall depth. We got to put 70. We got to put 60 plus. I'm hoping, again, 70 points no matter what, no matter how much we give up. But TCU gets a victory. And I forgot, going back a few shows ago, we were talking about how they did renovations at Iowa State. And did y'all know that they have 63,000 seats capacity? I think 64,000. You would expect that from a bigger school. But Iowa State for football, 63,000. They're going to fill it up for sure for TCU. I know that. TCU just has to have bad luck where Iowa State's going to fill it all up. But, man, that is absolutely ridiculous. Boston College at Clemson, going with Clemson here. Florida at LSU. Now, originally, I had Florida winning this game. Just because LSU still doesn't have a quarterback. Their defense is up and down. And Florida has a good running game or a good offense. And obviously their defense is one of the best in the country. But news broke out earlier this week that starting quarterback Will Grier, freshman quarterback, would be suspended not for just this game, but for the entire season as he took performance-enhancing drugs. So he is out. In goes Trayon Harris, who I spoke highly of beginning of the season before he decided to almost screw up his career, probably still did. Even though he's a solid quarterback, dual-threat quarterback, I think this game's going to get to him under the lights and in Baton Rouge. Going with LSU and Leonard Fournette to get the victory. Missouri at Georgia. I could see Missouri getting this W, but I'm going to go with Georgia here, even without Nick Chubb. USC at Notre Dame. Going with Notre Dame here. Michigan State, Ohio State. Going with Penn State. I think it happens. Even though it's at Ohio State, I'm gonna go with Penn State. I'm doing it. I am doing it. And then finally, Arizona State at Utah. Guys, I've completely lost my mind. I'm going with Arizona State. Yep. Utah does not stay undefeated this season. I think they let this game slip. Arizona State's that weird freaking team where they will suck for the sucky games and they will play good sometimes in the good games. I think they get this victory 41-38, somewhere around that range. Going with Arizona State here. So that is it for college football. Most likely, majority of those picks are wrong. Hopefully not my TCU pick. Hopefully that stays right. Let's move on to the NFL. Again, not a whole lot of news in the NFL. And it's just a very weird week. But we'll still discuss some of the games, or all the games. We got Pittsburgh Steelers center Maurkice Pouncey, who's possibly going to miss all of the 2015 season after undergoing a second surgery on his left fibula, according to a media report. The surgery was necessary because of an infection caused by a metal plate inserted during the first surgery, which that has to just suck. If Pouncey misses the entire season, which is what it's looking like, it would be his second full-year loss since 2013 after he tore his ACL. So, bad news for the Steelers. Offensive line have had question marks over the past couple of years. Maurkice Pouncey's always been that star guy for them, a guy they can rely on, and sadly, they won't be able to do that this season. Colts owner Jim Irsay expects quarterback Andrew Luck to start against the New England Patriots on Sunday, barring any kind of setback with his right shoulder. Luck has missed the past 2 games because of a shoulder injury suffered against the Tennessee Titans in Week 3. So, obviously, if the Colts want any chance of winning against the New England Patriots with Andrew Luck, is necessary. But I think even with him, New England looks good. They do. Biggest news and the topic we are going to talk about is Buffalo Bills wide receiver. Now, if you haven't heard, Sammy Watkins is very upset, mainly because of the lack of targets he's been receiving. Telling the Buffalo News that this week that he and his agent told the team that they were making him, as in Sammy Watkins, quote, look bad after the Bills selected him 4th overall in 2014. He said this, quote, I need the ball at least 10 times. I need 10 targets. I will be fine with however many yards I get. And that's what I addressed in talking with my agent. We reached out a couple of people and tried to pull some strings like, hey, I need my targets. You came up to draft me, and I'm not getting any targets. That's a problem. You're making me look bad, and you're making yourself look bad. Why not make both of us look good? Pretty strong remarks right there. A strong statement from Sammy Watkins. He does have a point to what he is saying, but it gets even further. Now, you think that was strong. Check this out. Again, now Watkins has been sidelined since suffering a calf injury in the first quarter and the Bills' September 27th win over the Miami Dolphins. It's the 6th time the former Clemson star has been injured since the Bills traded the number 9 overall pick in 2014 and their 2015 first-round pick to the Cleveland Browns to move up 5 spots to select Watkins, though this is his first time missing any regular season action. This is what he had to say. It digs in deep, ladies and gentlemen. He said, quote, for a guy you go up in the draft to take as your number 1 receiver, you would love those 15 targets that Julio Jones gets, those 20 targets that Odell Beckham Jr. gets. Of course, I have 100 yards every game and a touchdown if I'm getting 20 targets. And it backs up. He backs that statement up. Everything is fine for this part. With E.J. Manuel and then Kyle Orton throwing him passes last season, Watkins finished his rookie campaign with 65 catches, 982 yards, and 6 touchdowns, just shy of the production that Odell Beckham had, who, of course, broke out 91 catches, 1,300 yards in just 12 games. But for him, with those 2 quarterbacks and the Buffalo Bills, who they were last year, not bad at all. And like I said, everything is good. He has a point to everything he is saying until he gets to this. This is his last statement. And this is where there's a question mark now. He screwed up until this point, right at this point. Saying, quote, when I have one-on-one coverage, go to me. I don't care what's going on over there. I don't care if he's open. When I get one-on-one, just target me. Now, I'm going to let that sink in for a little bit, and I want you to let me know, who does Sammy Watkins sound like when he says that? Use the hashtag #TheShortSportsShow on Twitter. Tag me in it. Let me know who you guys think. To me, that sounds like Terrell Owens. Exactly like Owens. Good and bad. Owens, obviously, Hall of Famer. But there's a lot of questions, his character. on it. Watkins, you've only been in the league for 1 year. Yes, you did well in your rookie year. This is still, I don't know. It's still, it's I don't know. I don't think you should be going that far. Everything was fine. I understand you want those targets. He was also said earlier that, you know, when he looks on film, he's open majority of the time. The quarterback even looks his way but doesn't throw it to him. And that's where he's frustrated on. And, you know, I haven't looked back on film. But if I did, and if he's right that if you watch his tape and he is open and he's just not getting the ball, and it's not one of those things where the quarterback just didn't see him or you know, something where you can possibly make a right excuse for the quarterback, then, I mean, he has a point. Then Watkins has a point to be upset and that, you know, that he's not getting the ball enough. But right now, he should just be focusing on rehabbing his calf. That's what he should be focusing on. He even said that he would play this week if that meant even re-injuring his calf. Now, Rex Ryan said, whoa. That's not your call. That is not your call. This, you know, you don't worry about that. Right now, you worry about just getting healthy. I'll tell you when it's time to play. And right now, Watkins, that's all I should be worried about. Worried about getting healthy. But when you go and say, I don't care what's going on over there on the other side of the field, basically. I don't care if he's open. You even said to your own, you're talking about your own teammates, whether it's Percy, whether it's Charles Clay, whether it's anybody on the Bills roster who's open. You're saying, I don't care if he's open. If I have one-on-one, if I'm in a one-on-one situation, just target me. That is where you become a problem in the locker room. You cause distractions now. You are off your game. And you're not helping the Bills get to where they need to be. That is where it becomes a problem. I love Sammy Watkins. I love his ability. I think, you know, I'm not going to judge him based off this. Even though that last statement just sounded like Terrell Owens. I'm not going to judge him. I'm not going to put him down. But that was right there a rookie mistake. Even though he's not a rookie, that was a rookie mistake with media. And they didn't twist his words. That's what he said. And I'm not one of those people that's, you know, going to make it the headline and then later into this in the description or later in the story he said something earlier that then changes everything. No, this is what he said. All of it was upset. You're fine. You're upset about it. Don't say that. Because now you've caused a problem in the locker room. That's the last thing you want to do. Buffalo has a really good shot. To do some good things this year. Tyrod Taylor playing well, kind of injured, might not play this week, but doing well. Defense is there, of course. Rex Ryan, great coach. Things can go in Buffalo's way, but they're going to need some help, especially on the offense, and they're definitely going to need some help by having Sammy Watkins be as positive as possible, sticking with the game plan, doing what he has to do to just be a team player. That's all you got to do. Let's go ahead and talk about some of the games, what to watch for this week, and making our picks. So this doesn't go in time or in time order just because of the fact that Seahawks and the Chargers, I have them as like favorite teams on here. So we're going to go those two games first. You got the Carolina Panthers at 4-0 going on the road in a rematch of divisional playoffs against the Seattle Seahawks, who are 2-3. Going to be on Fox at 3:05 p.m. Central Time. Going with the Seahawks here. I think after letting a 17-point lead slip in Cincinnati, they know they can't do it again. Of course, Cincinnati, a great team, not like a normal old-school Cincinnati team. Panthers, they are 4-0. I believe they're coming off a bye week. I think that's right. Let's see. Did they come off of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter right now. It's going to be a good game. Cam Newton. but I just don't think they have enough offense to score any points against the Seattle defense. Like Cincinnati has targets, Cam Newton really doesn't. And I think Seattle gets back to its winning ways to go back to 500 at 3-3 with a victory over the Carolina Panthers. Seattle is a 7-point favorite. Chargers at the Packers. Packers, of course, 5-0. This game will be on CBS at 3:25 p.m. Central Time. Green Bay a now 10.5-point favorite. It was last night. It was 9.5. They now moved it to 10.5, and I think that's just about right. I think Green Bay does get this victory as Chargers defense is just not there. Offensively, I think they're going to be able to score points with Packers, where it kind of keeps it close. I think Chargers will, win over the spread. I think this game could easily be a 35-33, 35-30 type game. I just don't think Chargers have, enough defense to get enough stops over Green Bay to take the lead. So I'm going with Green Bay here. Redskins, who are 2-3 at the New York Jets, who are 3-1. Going with the Jets here. This game will be on Fox, 12 p.m. Central Time. Jets are a 6-point favorite. Redskins defense is, especially the rushing defense, is bad. I think Chris Ivory goes absolutely insane and dominates over the Washington defense. Cardinals 4-1, getting their first loss last week, going on the road to take on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who got a controversial win. This game is on Fox at 12 o'clock Central Time. Cardinals are a 3.5-point favorite, and I'm going with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think they got things rolling. Antonio Brown is telling Mike Vick to trust him, that he will make plays. I think they do. This is going to be a great game. The Cardinals have a much better defense than the Chargers do, so it's going to be a bigger test. But I think relying on Le'Veon Bell, making some third and manageable happen, Steelers can do something, especially at home. It's going to be a great matchup. Chiefs at the Vikings. Chiefs are 1-4. Vikings 2-2. Going with the Vikings here, who are a 3.5-point favorite. Again, this game is on CBS at 12 p.m. Central Time. And I'm going with the Vikings, Adrian Peterson, all day, every day. Cincinnati Bengals 5-0, and going against the Buffalo Bills, who are 3-2. CBS, 12 o'clock Central Time. Cincinnati 3-point favorite. Going with the Bengals here, getting this W. You also have the Chicago Bears, who are 2-3, taking on the Detroit Lions, who are 0-5. But Detroit Lions are a 3-point favorite. And I'm taking it. I'm going with the Lions. I think they get this done. Broncos 5-0, going against the Cleveland Browns, who are 2-3. And again, they had Johnny Football. I'm picking the Browns. No, even if they had Johnny Football. And I feel like this is the game Johnny Football is going to come in. I really do, against the league's best defense right now. And he's going to look bad. If it happens, I'm not judging Johnny. I won't do it. I won't do it. Going with the Broncos here, even though they are only a 4-point favorite. Texans at the Jaguars, a game that sadly, for us living in Texas, we have to watch. We're being forced to watch this game. But this is going to be the worst game of the week. Going with Jacksonville, though. Dolphins at the Titans, both teams 1-3. This game will be on CBS, 12 p.m. Central Time. Tennessee is a 1.5-point favorite, and I'm taking the Tennessee Titans. Marcus Mariota, please do some work. Ravens at the 49ers, both teams 1-4. This game being on CBS at 3:25 Central Time. Baltimore a 2-point favorite. And again, I guess this is actually another boring game, but I'm going to go with the Ravens here. And then Sunday night, we have the New England Patriots 4-0, taking on the Indianapolis Colts at 3-2. Even if Andrew Luck plays, I'm still taking the Patriots here, who are a 10-point favorite, and I'm starting Rob Gronkowski. Absolutely doing it. And then finally, Monday night, we have the 3-2 New York Giants taking on the 2-3 Philadelphia Eagles on ESPN 7:30 Central Time. Philadelphia being a 5-point favorite, and Philadelphia can really mix things up. If they can beat the New York Giants, then you got two teams 3-3. Depending on what the Cowboys do next week after coming off their bye with a new quarterback, new running back, apparently a new offense. The NFC East can go from being what was beginning of the season a good division to then in the middle, early in the season, a bad division to then a just wild card mix-up division, and anything can happen within it. With if the Eagles can get this victory, I'm going with the Giants here. I think the Giants win it, but it would be a much interesting season if Philadelphia can beat the Giants and tie this up. That is it for today's show. I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, be sure to hit that like button and give it a 5-star rating on iTunes. Go ahead and do it for yourself. It make me feel better too. Whether you're listening on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spreaker.com, Stitcher Radio, YouTube, whatever it may be sure to hit that like, share with your friends and family, and follow me on Twitter at @short_sports 24/7. And I will see you guys next Monday. This Monday, I should say. This Monday morning, we will be back doing our show, doing it big, and we will be recapping all the games, college football, NFL, and any news that happens. Sammy Watkins, please just do your thing. Just go on the field, win some games. Don't only turn into TO if you're by your playing ability, not your off field. Hope you guys enjoyed. As always, God first, God bless, and I will see you guys Monday. Peace.